It has to happen. If you're going to be doing business and you're going to be conducting any type of business on the principles of law, then the Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally construed. It's going to be applied. There's no way around it. Absolutely no way around it. And that's because it supports the underlying purpose and policies, which is to pay.
Right.
The Uniform Commercial Code supports you making these payments using these documents. That's the purpose, to govern the goods, this personal property that we use, not the real property.
Right.
Even though there's a couple of fixtures that may go inside of this real property that the Uniform Commercial Code do cover based on credit. So how you feeling so far? What you think?
See, I would have never like. I don't think I would even interpret it that way had I not heard you say it that way. Like
Okay.
I know I see like the must part, but like liberally construed and applied to promote is like, I mean, it's clear, but like again, like that's why I say like sometimes like I've read a lot of this, but like I'm like sometimes I read it, I don't really understand like what they're saying.
Okay. So it's going to be times where I'm going to ask you to read and then clarify so that I can help guide you and direct you to and remind you by asking you a follow-up questions to get you on that path.
Right.
It's important to be present. It's important to be here. You see that they even got a gift box right up there. It never leaves.
That's
It's
funny.
important to be present in a moment and really, truly, truly, truly look at the words. They're telling you everything that you need to know.
Right.
Whenever you see word construed, it ain't something that got to be talked about. It's construed if you decide to do any type of business
Right.
under the principles of law. The Uniform Commercial Code is deliberately construed amongst and liberally construed amongst everybody. There's no question of do you abide by the Uniform Commercial Code? There's not a question.
And that's the and this that's funny you said that because there's times when I've been on the phone like arguing them down. I'm like, no, this applies to any and all. They like, no, it doesn't. But it's like, I again, I know enough to be like to be able to express myself, but then also like you said, like sometimes the people we're talking to, they don't even know about this stuff, so they can't even help me. And I'm like, this
Hmm.
is the law. Like this is not a choice. This is not. But again, they don't
Not
understand what that document is.
exactly because that's not an incapacity. Even when you think about getting a car dealing with somebody, you have a sales department, which that means they're going to be making sure you getting it, or maybe they helped initiate the agreement, took the paperwork in the beginning, the initial sale. And then you're going to have a business department, a business operator side, maybe even a financing department, somebody who does two different things. Some person who deals with creating the documents, taking the documents, giving the person what they want, and then making sure they get their bill. That's
Right.
all they do in the sales team.
Right.
Sales team don't know nothing about anything outside of that, outside of collecting documents for a deposit.
Right.
We collect our documents so we can deposit. So really, truly, try to be present in the moment because the Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally construed. So everybody is going to, acknowledge the Uniform Commercial Code. And so two things, not one or the other, it's both.
And
So not only is it liberally construed against parties of an agreement, but it's applied to promote the underlying purposes and policies. The purpose of the principle. What is the underlying purpose of the principle? Well, it's an individual who encourages that for personal, family, and household purposes. So, okay, the Uniform Commercial Code is going to promote that. They're
right.
going to encourage that. They're going to help that. And then these companies are saying, hey, well, we want to get paid. The Uniform Commercial Code is going to promote that underlying, that commitment purposes, policies. Policy of the company is to pay. So, what is the first thing that they have to say after they let us know that, hey, the Uniform Commercial Code is liberally construed? It's applied to help you promote business. Its purpose is to help you promote and help you apply your commitment, your payments. So, what's the first thing that they also want you to know about the Uniform Commercial Code? Stop where you feel you should stop.
Okay. Which are to simplify, clarify, and modernize the law governing commercial transactions.
So, what do you think? that they just said. The first reason for the Uniform Commercial Code is to do what?
For us to understand how to
Man,
make
make it easy.
right. Right.
Period. The Uniform Commercial Code simplifies commerce, clarifies commerce, and make it modern to the present moment, dealing with the present value. The Uniform Commercial Code purpose is only to make things simple. Simplify those principles when you initiated the agreement, that principle that and the obligation that arose for you having to pay. The Uniform Commercial Code come along, simplify and clarify that. That's its purpose. Commercial transactions. So it's for a good cause.
Yes.
What about two?
Okay, so to permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom, usage, and agreement of the parties.
So what do you think that just said?
That's basically telling us that that information is available to us by the agreements of the parties. So we should be able to find out how to deal in commerce through our agreements.
Okay, so what about the fact that we're talking about the reason why we're here, right? In the Uniform Commercial Code is to understand how to deal with our bills, how to deal with our good,
Yes.
right? And the Uniform Commercial Code helps us or helps to simplify and clarify that action when it comes to transactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is going to help us to do what with that bill? Read number 2 again.
To permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom
Stop.
usage. Oh,
You have a comma.
mm-hmm.
So you want to stop at that comma and then you want to see what's before to see what they were talking about. So we know that we're talking about using our bill and using that good, using that personal property. Now that we know that the Uniform Commercial Code promote that, and they here to simplify and clarify it. They said using our bill is going to do what?
Is going to permit us to practice.
To continue the expansion of commercial practices. So each and every time you receive your bill, you're going to be doing what with them? Extending them, continuing commerce, not stopping it, using them, practicing the commercial practices through customs, the usage of the document due to the agreements
So what's the
of
custom?
each and every party. So that's like your customary practice of business. How do you deal with this good? However you deal with the good, the document is given to you to promote the continuance of that document, the expansion of it, the extension of it. However it is that, your customary practice of business is. These sellers' customary practice of business is to make sure that they send you the bill. It's used for that purpose. It is used to continue and expand commerce each and every time they send you that document. It's an agreement of you, of y'all, to make sure that you receive it so that you can use it, because that's what we deal with when we're dealing with commerce.
Right.
We use these documents to extend and expand commerce. We use them so that it can grow, so that we continue the flow, create money. Each and every time we use these documents, it's going to expand commercial practices. They want us to pay and use documents, not USD. That's not what the Uniform Commercial Code promotes. The Uniform Commercial Code does not promote you paying USD.
Mm-mm.
They acknowledge it and let you know that it is a way that you may take, but they narrow in and focus in on the personal property and not somebody else's property. They cannot tell you how to use the United States money,
Right.
but they'll come along and simplify and clarify how you can use a modernized way of paying to promote your underlying commitment that you have. And it's by the expansion and use of your documents that you agreed to receive. Each and every person you have an agreement with, seller, they, agree to, or they promise to pay you a statement. You also promise to pay them one without giving them papers and documents and promissory notes and agreements. They couldn't even send you the contract. So notice agreements here and not contracts. So
Right.
with the party, with the seller, you make an agreement, and that agreement is for the use of contracts. And you may use it in your customary practice of business so that you expand and continue the practices of credit, commerce, using documents, promising to pay. What's your thoughts? How you feel right now? Do you
No, that
see that?
I do see it. The custom part threw me off a little bit, but I did see the second half of it, but that makes sense.
Okay.
That's why it's expansion, because it's like recurring.
Right. Over and over. The consumer is someone who makes repeated or contemplates making repeated transactions. Each and every time we make that repeated transaction, we're continuing commerce. We're expanding commerce. We're adding more than just the promissory note and the other document into the trust that whomever has that trust. We're also adding these notes, these drafts, or maybe even just a securities aided certificate. Whatever it is that we must use through the usage that is according to whatever the person's customary practice of business is. What do you want? Do you use the certificate of security or do you use the whole entire draft? What do you want?
Right.
The Uniform Commercial Code helps to promote that so that you can pay, so that you can meet your underlying commitment. They're going to be giving you these negotiable instruments to simplify and clarify how you can pay, make it modern. These are laws that govern commercial transactions. So each and every time you receive when you walk into a place to acquire anything, that's a commercial transaction. When you receive your bill in the mail, that's a commercial transaction. The Uniform Commercial Code is going to be all up in that business, providing governing laws on how you deal with the document, not how you deal with the house, the car, or any service or any other person's customary practice of business.
Right.
Only when it deals with their customary practice of business when it comes to dealing with these documents. And that's where you're going to see a lot of the companies' patterns are similar because they're going to be abiding by commercial standards.
Right.
So the purpose of the Uniform Commercial Code is so that it can be liberally construed between buyer, seller, and whomever is the party to an agreement to promote the underlying purpose and agreement, which is to pay. The Uniform Commercial Code comes along and simplify and clarify how it is we are to be making those or meeting those obligations. And we do that by using these documents in the customary practice of business between the seller and the buyer and expanding in those documents in commerce to continue financial transactions, commercial transactions, consumer transactions. We use these documents to do that. That's what we agree to. We're not agreeing to cash. It doesn't say that there. It doesn't say we're using cash to continue the expansion of commercial practices.
Right.
Mm-mm. We're doing that by agreements and commercial transactions with another, having this underlying commitment to one another. that's not the only medium. The only medium of exchange in the world is not only happening in the United States. I used to
Right.
think that, coming up and being from Detroit, like everybody in the world was like people in Detroit. And I'm like, ooh, boy, was I wrong. They not. Everybody not experiencing the same thing. And that's how it is with money. Everybody is not experiencing the same thing. It depends on your perspective of money, your mindset of money. What is money to you? If money to you is a US dollar, then that's what money is to you. But there's a flip side to money, and money is energy. It is a medium of exchange, something that can be felt foreignly and domestically. And the way we create that energy is by passing these documents from one to another, like a tornado, round and round and round and round and round, creating this energy, this happy medium of exchange where everybody is easily relieved of their liability for as long as they use what they have in their possession, for as long as they present. Anytime you're present and you're in the moment and you receive that bill in the mail, you just know that you got a check. You know you got a present. You know you got an income.
Right.
You happy to receive it and you also happy to see it go because you're sharing with another. You're giving to another. You're continuing the flow, the circulation of money. It's about stocks and flow. When you deal with stocks, we have these assets, these financial assets that we're dealing with comes into play, and that's what we put into flow. We're doing that with corporations at a rate based on the stock market exchange. This is happening in law amongst various different jurisdictions. This is how we pay. This is how we meet and promote our underlying purposes to another, especially those who we made a agreement with. Right. How are we dealing with these documents? How are we dealing with these goods? How do we deal? Anything we touch is valuable. Everything we touch is valuable. You get that document in the mail that represents a price and it don't say zero or negative, but a price, you got payment, you got money. You should be happy to receive it and happy to circulate it. Happy to let it flow to someone else who can benefit from it. It's not supposed to be a conflict of interest. So there's particular provisions on the Uniform Commercial Code, being Article 1, 2, 3 through 9, that is going to relate to principles of law in dealing with equity, credit, automatic. Because when we make that agreement, it is about the principles of law and equity, 100%. That's going to be the reason why we receive our income later. We give them the right to the equity. We give them the security interest that they need. We also, and that also includes giving that to merchants and those related to the capacity of a merchant when it comes to the contract, which is us. We work within the capacity relating to a merchant because we also accept these documents due to equity, due to the principles of law. So you have the seller who's going to be getting some equity, a merchant who's going to be getting some equity, and you who's going to be getting some equity. You're going to receive the interest from the equity that you gave to a merchant due to the principles of law, due to the common principles of you creating the agreement. It's happening. Once you do that, once you create that sort of agreement and you give and it calls for a security interest and you're giving up that sort of equity, it creates this principal agent relationship where they're going to share with you. It's not principal or agent, it's principal and agent. So I really want you to pay attention to words like and or, so you can know that do principal apply to me only or do agent apply to me only? In this case, it's both. So here's that mirroring situation that I was giving you.
Right. Makes sense.
So whenever we create this agreement, it creates this agency, this principal agent relationship, and we're able to put a stop to it due to fraud and misrepresentation of who that agent actually is.
Right.
Maybe they're claiming that position due to mistake, the rest, maybe bankruptcy, maybe I'm insolvent, maybe I haven't been paying, and they took on the role of an agent due to my insolvency, me not proceeding to bankruptcy.
Right.
But there's principles and there's provisions in the Uniform Commercial Code that is going to help you to validate and invalidate provisions that were agreed upon on the principles of common law.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
When it says principal and agent, are they referring to, like, I'm trying to figure out, they're referring to the same person being one or the other or two different parties?
So this is two different parties,
Okay.
buyer, seller, seller, buyer. These are the two people who come together to initiate this agreement, who come together to make or form the agreement. Once that seller and that buyer comes together, or those two individuals come together and create the agreement, this principal and agent relationship arise. It doesn't matter if you're knowledgeable of it or not. It
Right.
happens, and it's an agency, and it allows for one to act for the other and vice versa.
Okay. That makes sense.
So the agent acts on behalf of the principal, and the principal acts on behalf of the agent. Any action that the agent make, it is considered also to be the action of the principal. The
Right.
principal wanted that to happen. This only is created when you work within the capacity to make an agreement and to deal with contracts.
Right. That makes sense.
So the purpose of the Uniform Commercial Code is to help you and to just simplify commerce. Like, so you won't just think that money is this dollar bill. There's something that came along to help ease that situation up. and someone who's related to the capacity of the contracts. We're related to the capacity of that contract. The individual is going to be receiving that contract each and every month due to that agreement. Because that contract, that bill that we receive is going to help us to continue the expansion of commercial practices. So that's the purpose. So every single thing that you're going to be reading from this point forward is going to be helping this purpose.
Got it.
Knowledge. I talk about this a lot in my stories, and it's for a reason. It's not nothing that I said. It's the very first thing that they said when dealing in commerce and transacting with another. They made a few points. I'm talking about a lot of points. 1,
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm talking about a lot of points just based on noticing and having knowledge about what you notice.
Right. And we're discover.
Okay, you see it. That's the third point that they made. After you notice what you should be knowledgeable of, you're gonna have to discover it, because knowledge has a corresponding meaning when it comes to knows. So you can notice something and know about it, but you might not know the facts and the circumstances of it, so you're not knowledgeable of it.
Right. That part.
And this is all what they said. They said this. We're always going to be receiving notifications of our bill. Always. But we notice it. Of course, we see it. But having actual knowledge of it is different. That means we just know what it is.
Right.
We're not knowledgeable of it, but for as long as we have discovery, for as long as we can discover and learn, it don't matter what we don't know.
Right.
That's why it's corresponding to knowledge. If you don't know something, be knowledgeable of it.
Right.
Go discover. Go look at words of a similar import so that you can refer the knowledge, but rather any terms or reasons that you know of, like how we were raised.
Right.
Money is this, money is the USD. Look at similar words or imports so that you can discover and become knowledgeable and notice that there's more than one meaning.
Right.
When we notify a person and give notice to a person of something that we discovered, they straighten up.
Right.
Because they know we about to be dealing with some facts and some circumstances. The facts that I just discovered is circling all the way around these circumstances, and I'm gonna have to put you on notice. So we're always going to be discovering. Whatever we don't know, it don't matter. We're gonna find out. We're gonna discover. We're gonna learn. So that we can notify.
That's crazy.
But you see it?
No, I didn't even notice that in there. I don't even know if I ever noticed that. Like those, I don't even know. And I usually read definition, but I don't know why. I don't recall like reading this section for some reason. I mean, I didn't read the whole thing. I read a lot of the Uniform Commercial Code, but maybe just not this article for the most part. But I didn't even notice this.
The most overlooked, because normally, like, even when I see people, in commerce and thinking about commerce and things like that, they automatically skip to Article 3.
That's where I went first. That's why I'm like, it makes sense. Like, 'cause I read a lot of it, but I never noticed it. And I did glimpse through it, but like, no, I never like even recognized the definition of discover right there. I don't recall.
People are probably thinking like she trying to be a smart ass, like she know it all. And I'm like, shit, I ain't say none of this. Like, I ain't trying to offend nobody, but shit.
Right.
You can know about something but not be knowledgeable of it, and it's clear.
Right. That's so funny. I'm like, I damn sure skipped the 3. Like I like glimpse, but like 3 is where I really started. Like I read all of 3. Like I know that for a fact. I read that whole article.
When I say so many people skip to 3 because the title is so freaking appealing.
Yeah.
Negotiable instrument. Well, I know I'm dealing with negotiable instruments. That's why I need to go off top.
Right. No, for real.
So that too. After we get out of this Q&A, we're gonna get more into like the law, and then more into your agreements, more into bills. So we'll do some mock, back and forth too, because it is gonna be a part of the process that I'm gonna be teaching you. So I want you to, build up as much confidence as you can to communicate payment.
Okay.
I want you to notice that I said communicate payment.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? before we hop into volume 3, how to be present, how to be in the moment and recognize what you see and what you actually hear. We're going to be teaching you to communicate payment. So when you think about or you hear, or a question come up about what does that mean? What you want to do is, of course, we hear the word together, communicate payment, but you also want to see it separated. What does communicate mean? How do we communicate, or how do a consumer communicate in our case? What is payment? What does payment refer to? What's the discovery behind payment and what payment is? So when you think about communicate, what do you think communicate is? To send, assign, writing. So sign it on a document, as you said, is how we're gonna communicate. Or there's another way. We can transmit the information by a mechanism. So if I transmit the information, then I'm going to be completing the EFT. So if I want to communicate by transmitting, I'm communicating payment. So what is payment? We know that communicate is transmitting information. So bam, if I say that you're going to be learning how to communicate payment, that means that you're going to be learning how to transmit information.
Right. So
Then
the
it
payment
says,
would be the remit,
exactly. The payment would
the
be the
negotiable
remittance.
instrument.
Right. The remittance. So I'm going to show you how to, because payment is interchangeable with remittance. Remit is interchangeable with pay. And that's what you're going to learn in volume 3 as well.
Okay.
So you're going to learn how to transmit information by remittance, communicate payment. Right. When I say communicate payment, that can lead you to the discovery. You have to pay attention to the words that are being said, the words that you actually see right here. If you see transmit information, then you need to be figuring what transmit mean. Transferring. Okay, cool. That's exactly what we know we want to do. Because we want to negotiate, communicate, sign, and transmit, or one or the other.